Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Talk Travel podcast. I'm thrilled to be joined today by Linda from Riviera Travel. Linda is here to share all the key information about Riviera's fantastic selection of solo holidays, as well as what really makes their tours stand out from competitors. First of all, Linda, thank you so much for giving up your time, obviously, to do this today. Would you mind giving us a brief introduction as to your kind of background and role within the travel industry?
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. I've worked in travel for over 15 years now, so mostly in product and marketing for a variety of different tour operators. And then I joined Riviera a little bit over a year ago, and I was working in our long haul escorted tour team. But then in February this year, I moved to working on our solos product because solos is doing so well for us at the moment. It's up 40% year on year for 2025, even more for 2026. So it was decided that we needed somebody to kind of focus on it full time, which is what I do now. And it's something I'm really passionate about because I've traveled solo many times myself, and I've been lucky enough to go to some amazing places, obviously, but also meet some of my very best friends. So it's always something I would recommend doing to anyone.
Perfect. And you just mentioned there you've had the opportunity to travel solo yourself. What sort of destinations have you had the opportunity to visit?
Oh my gosh, I've been to lots of places. I've been all around South America, to Egypt, Albania, Turkey, Vietnam, Cambodia, and so on. But then just this year, I was lucky enough to go on two of our Riviera Solo exclusive tours. So in March, I spent 2 weeks in the deep South USA and Texas, which was amazing. And then in just a few weeks later, in April, I went on a 5 day Netherlands river cruise, which was my first river cruise. And that was really lovely as well. So both great travel experiences, but really good for me, having newly started in this role, to really meet, our solo travelers and really understand what they're looking for in a holiday.
Yeah, you just mentioned obviously you've had the opportunity of traveling with Riviera yourself on their solo exclusives. So how does Riviera kind of design their itineraries with solo travelers in mind?
Yeah, so basically what we do is we take our best-selling classic tours and cruises and we kind of replicate them for solos, but we add four special unique selling points as well. So one of the things that we do is we have a smaller group size. So on an escorted tour, that'll be maximum 25 people. So it's easier to get to know people, it's a bit more intimate. River cruise, the numbers vary, but because everyone gets their own cabin, it's half the number that would normally be, on a river cruise. And our yacht cruises is just 19 people, so we have less people. We include a double room, with no solo supplement for them as standard. They'll also get a meet and greet at their UK departure point to make them feel a bit more comfortable, especially when it's their first time. Sometimes people get a little bit nervous. And we'll also include a welcome dinner and drink at the beginning of the tour as well, we have other drinks and dinners generally included, but we make sure we've always got that one to kind of get them getting to know each other from the beginning.
And what would you say some of like the biggest misconceptions are about solo travel?
Yeah, I think there's a lot, although I think it's less and less because I think, the fact that it's booming, not just for us, but across the industry, I think people maybe in the past there was more stigma around these kind of things. And I think escorted tours in general, whereas I feel like nowadays people just, they just want to explore the world however they can. But one of the misconceptions sometimes is that solos mean single, so that it's like a dating kind of matchmaking thing, which it isn't. Of course, there may be some relationships that happen organically, but that's not the purpose of these holidays. The purpose is to be able to travel together safely, meet some like-minded travelers, see some amazing places. And we definitely do find a lot of people make friends, which we really love. And for example, somebody I met in the USA this year, she traveled to Vietnam and Cambodia last year. And a group of 8 of them actually from that tour stayed in touch, and they met up in York a few months later. And now they've got another reunion this year. So lots of people have reunions in the UK, or they go on to travel together again in future. So making friends is definitely something that can happen, but it's not for singles as such, if that makes sense. It's more about traveling with like-minded people.
Of course, yeah, and you've just mentioned obviously about the kind of group aspect, and managing to and having the opportunity to socialize well on the tours and everything like that. So can you walk us through some of the different kind of holiday and touring styles that you offer to solo travelers?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, we kind of replicate our best-selling classic holidays. So that means actually we've got a really broad range of solo exclusive holidays. So we do escorted tours both in Europe and further afield, but we also do river cruises, yacht cruises, and we have one ocean cruise as well. And actually, because it's been growing, this year we've got our biggest ever solo exclusive range. So we've now got over 50 holidays in over 35 countries, and it's something that's continually growing. And in terms of some of the best sellers, for Europe, we have a tour called Classical Spain, which sells really well for us. It's like a 7-day tour going around the best cities in southern Spain. And then a bit further afield, we've got a short Marrakesh, Atlas and Essaouira tour that sells well. And then long haul South Africa sells really well for us. I think it's got so much variety, South Africa, but also it's really good value for money right now. So it's super popular. And then in terms of river cruising, our bestseller is one called the Blue Danube. And in just 8 days, you go to 3 different countries. So lots of people like to tick off countries when they travel. And the great thing, of course, with river cruising is you're traveling while you're asleep. You wake up somewhere new in the morning and you haven't actually had to spend all of that time. You don't feel like you've traveled. It just happened when you were eating or sleeping. So yeah, we've got biggest ever range, but those are some of our best selling tours.
Yeah, we actually had the opportunity to go through your classical Spain tour with Claire, actually, with one of the previous podcast episodes that we did. It definitely seems like one that's popular and definitely on the rise, I would say. So in that respect, are there any kind of less known itineraries that Riviera offer, or kind of maybe overlooked itineraries that you think that people maybe could go on?
Yeah, one perhaps is we've got this really great 5-day short break in Germany. And in just 5 days, it does Berlin, Dresden, Colditz, and Meissen as well. So it's great for people who really want to, maybe they're still working and they really want to maximize their time off and see as much as they can. And also for people who want to see a different side of Germany, like Berlin is very popular for good reason. There's loads of amazing sites there, but actually, less people go to Dresden. So it's quite interesting sometimes to have that contrast between cities and towns, when you're visiting a country. So that's one I'd recommend. And something like that's good for first timers as well, I find, because some first timers can be quite nervous, because especially with solos, not all of them, all of our solo travelers are different, but some of them, unfortunately, are divorced or widowed recently, and they've been with their partner for perhaps decades, and they've never traveled on their own before. So the thought of traveling solo can be really daunting. So I always think it's easier to try like that 5-day tour in Germany, or the 5-day river cruise I did, or we've got a 4-day Bruges trip, than say jumping in and doing 21 days in New Zealand. It's easier, I think, to start small. And we do find that people really enjoy, these holidays, and they come back time and time again. So, it's kind of, if you're not sure, start small, and then maybe you can do something further afield or something a bit longer as your second or third holiday.
Yeah, I think that's very good advice. In terms of accommodation options on these tours and these holidays, what sort of options are there to the individual traveller?
Yeah, so it does vary. I mean, in terms of river cruises, they're all 5-star, really good standard. With our yacht cruises, they're 4 stars. But where it varies the most will be on escorted tours, because it really depends on the destination. So we'll stay in accommodation from 3 to 5 stars. And it's very clear on all of our tours exactly, what the star rating is for those. The one thing in common, all the hotels will always be, clean, comfortable, hopefully with some character. If it's in a city, they'll be centrally located. But if you're somewhere like, say, Costa Rica, it'll be completely different. You'll be in a lovely eco lodge in the middle of the jungle. So kind of the style and the character of the hotels really depends on the destination. yeah, we get really good feedback on a lot of our accommodation, and we're always, striving to improve it. So it's always going to be a good standard.
Of course. And I think you mentioned briefly earlier on that you have kind of a range of different types of people wanting to go on the tours and stuff like that. Um, do you have kind of like a typical age range of people that go on your solo tours, or does it vary tour by tour, holiday by holiday?
Yeah, I mean, it does vary. I would say in general, at Riviera, most of our customers will be over 50, and probably mostly between 60s and 80s. But I think on the river cruise I just did recently, there are people from 50 to 90. So it can vary. And it's a cliche that we do really think that age is just a number, like, sometimes you can meet some very young, very old 60 something or a very young 80 something, it really depends. But I think the main thing, especially as you get older anyway, age isn't so important. It's just nice to make people who've got the same interests as you. So you'll find people who are having lovely conversations with people who are decades apart, but they've got that common interest, really.
Of course. And so could you share like any kind of final tips or advice for someone considering doing a solo holiday? Is there kind of pitfalls or is there stuff to consider? Like, what would you kind of say for that?
I would say if you're thinking about it, really just do it. Like take the plunge. And the thing is, I know it's not easy the first time. I've spoken to so many of our passengers who've told me, either it was their first time or they've told me about their first time and how incredibly nervous and anxious they were. But like I said, once they've done it, they make new friends, they have an amazing time. And our repeat rate for solos is actually higher than for our classic tours. So we do find these people coming back time and time again. And in one example, I met a lady on my short Amsterdam cruise recently, and she it was her first time, and she unfortunately had been widowed fairly recently, and she was so nervous. In fact, so nervous that not only just to book it, she almost didn't go on the first day. She didn't, she was so worried about it. But she made it to the airport. She got to Manchester Airport. She saw some other Riviera passengers, and they got bonding over the fact they were all on this trip, and unfortunately were also widowed. And by the time I met her on day 3 of the cruise, it's like they'd known each other for years, and they were forming a WhatsApp group with about 6 of them called the Amsterdam Bells, with all these plans to stay in touch back in the UK. So it's really lovely. Like I think it can be really hard the first time, but honestly, I read a lot of our feedback from our tours and cruises, and I've never ever read anyone say they've regretted booking a solo exclusive holiday.
Yeah, I think, like you say, I think it's from my perspective, it is a very kind of empowering thing to go solo traveling. I think you discover a lot about yourself, and it's something that definitely I would like to try at some point in my life. But yeah, obviously your advice is just kind of take the plunge and kind of go for it. Um, so just to kind of cap off then, are there any kind of current offers or promotions that Riviera, I should say, are running on solo tours?
So because our solo tours sell so well, we don't often, and we don't discount that much in general. We don't have anything like that. But on our river cruises, we do have an ongoing offer where for solos and non-solos, where we basically have a drinks package included for 2025, and for 2026 it gets even better. So basically we have for this year at lunchtime you get a range of drinks that you can have, some soft drinks, beer, wine, and so on, and then in the evening you can have the same plus our cocktail of the day, that kind of thing. And for 2026 we're making this so it's unlimited from 10 a.m. till midnight, so basically all day. So this is quite nice as well, because all the meals are included obviously on a river cruise, but now you're not worrying about drinks either, unless of course you want something more expensive or niche. So it just means you can just have relax, and just get chatting to people, and obviously that makes it easier to chat to people as well, and you're not like constantly worrying about bills or things like that. You're just having a nice time. So I think it really kind of helps make the river cruises go even more smoothly as well.
That's absolutely fantastic insight. Once again, thank you for your time. Really appreciate you obviously giving up your time to do this today. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
If you're looking to book a solo holiday with Riviera, Travel Club Elite can offer exclusive savings. You can simply call us on 0800 707 6229, or you can send us an inquiry to info@travelclubilite.com. If you're also considering different destinations, different itineraries, you can always browse the wide array of Riviera itineraries on our website if you just visit travelclubilite.com. But once again, thank you very much, Linda, for your time.